Hey there, everybody. I'm Mark Meredith. I'm a Fox correspondent in the Washington Bureau. Thanks so much for tuning in. Obviously, there's so much news happening overseas where all of our teams are very much focused on what's happening in Iran. Today, though, another major story in Washington is what happened from last week, but first was released on video overnight, and that was the House Oversight Committee had a chance to interview former President Bill Clinton as well as his wife, the former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton. And this focus of these two depositions was all about Jeffrey Epstein and, of course, the disgraced financier's ties to sexual abuse and what people knew and when. So these full videos of these depositions, 4.5 hour long each for each person, Bill as well as Hillary, came out last night. You can imagine our team was having to go through it quickly, trying to make sure they gathered as much of the information that we didn't already know at the same time. This was also a bipartisan deposition, meaning it was both Democrats and Republicans on the committee who were grilling these former public servants, asking them about what they knew of Jeffrey Epstein, Ghislaine Maxwell, anyone in the Epstein orbit, and both said repeatedly that they had no knowledge of any sex trafficking or sexual abuse. If you've had a chance to watch the videos yet, I don't know if you have. I know they've gone viral and they've been certainly on Fox this morning. Hillary Clinton was quite defiant, both prior to the deposition as well as during, saying there was a lot of institutional failure. She even said repeatedly, "How can I answer questions about a person that I don't believe that I ever met?" Because Hillary is saying that she did not have a relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. Quite different, of course, to what her husband said. Obviously, we have seen all the photos of him with Jeffrey Epstein over the years. But Hillary appeared to be quite annoyed with the repeated questions. She kept saying, "Well, why are you asking me this? What does this have to do with anything?" But as I said, a big difference when we saw with former President Clinton, who said he had more of like a business-like relationship with Epstein. He said he did not engage with any sexual conduct with women or girls that have now, of course, we found out to be victims of Jeffrey Epstein, and that Clinton said he did not witness any of the sexual acts while traveling on Epstein's plane. The plane has been a big part of what lawmakers, the media, pretty much anybody has talked about, and that the president was asked about this. Bill Clinton was asked, well, why were you on this plane? And Bill said that he first met Jeffrey Epstein back in 2001, 2002, all through his former Treasury Secretary, Larry Summers. Larry Summers has been around Democratic politics for decades, and he says he met with Jeffrey Epstein back in 2001, 2002, and that Epstein, Clinton said, would allow him to fly on this private plane for his humanitarian work for the Clinton Global Initiative, and that in exchange, Bill Clinton said that he and Epstein would talk about world affairs, that they could help each other out in the business relationship. But he also, again, Bill Clinton said that he had no knowledge of the sexual abuse allegations, sexual abuse behavior that we later learned was happening behind the scenes with Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell. Now, Clinton says that he and Donald Trump, this is before Donald Trump was president many years prior, even talked about Epstein once while the two men were golfing, and that he believed that Trump said that the relationship that he had with Jeffrey Epstein, so the Trump-Epstein relationship, soured because of property matters or business matters, nothing to do with sexual abuse. So the former president essentially coming to the defense of the current president, saying he didn't believe it had anything to do with what we all now know of Jeffrey Epstein's behavior. There was a lot of people on this committee. It's like I said, it's the House Oversight Committee. You can imagine everybody wants their 5 to 10 minutes, but we did hear a lot from Nancy Mace. She's a Republican congresswoman out of South Carolina. She's also running for governor right now, and it was really interesting because in the videos we saw with her and Hillary Clinton, boy, they did not get along. I mean, they continued to press each other. There was quite the shouting match at different times. And Nancy Mace kept talking about her personal experience as a sexual abuse survivor. And then Clinton kind of felt like she was being cut off, that she would get asked a question about Howard Lutnick, the current Commerce Secretary, and then that she felt like she was being cut off there. So you can imagine the tension that was in the room in a situation like this. Bill Clinton, while he said he was not friendly with, he said he was friendly with Jeffrey Epstein, but not close, that they had more of the acquaintance. He did say he was much more friendly with Ghislaine Maxwell, but that he also still did not know, according to his words, why Ghislaine Maxwell was involved with the things later she was convicted of. You may even remember, you've seen the photo, I'm sure, of Ghislaine Maxwell kind of hugging the side of a wedding, Chelsea Clinton's wedding. She was kind of hugging the aisle. Clinton said she was there because she was dating a tech billionaire at the time. So these depositions, they happened last week, but they were behind closed doors. we had a crew. We have an incredible congressional correspondent, Chad Pergram, who was up in Chappaqua, New York, not far from where the Clintons live. He was there to capture the action as it was happening. But now we're seeing through these videos what actually happened inside the room. So that's how we've been breaking it down. There's another famous part of this deposition now, if you will, where Hillary Clinton was in there doing her testimony, but another representative, a Republican congresswoman, had taken a picture of Clinton at the table, and that gotten sent out, and of course it got on social media, and man, the fireworks started flowing right after that, and that Clinton said, "This is ridiculous, we had ground rules, I'm going to get up right now, I don't care if you hold me in contempt until the cows come home." And the Republican congresswoman who posted the photo apologized, but it shows the tension over something like this. I mean, traditionally, yes, congressional hearings, I see them all the time, they can get contentious, but this was a deposition. This is supposed to be lawmakers, a former president, a secretary of state. You'd imagine that everybody is trying to keep their composure because they're all adults. They're in a business-like setting. But man, that was not the case, as we saw repeatedly on Friday. So I'm new at this. First time I've done this. I broke my ankle over Christmas, and that was a whole nother story. I got a walking cane now. It's been a nightmare. So this is the first time I've done the social media stuff. My colleague, though, Alex Hoff, was kind enough to kind of advise me what to do, and we're getting questions in. So I'm going to answer these in real time here. What are the possible outcomes of this testimony? Well, I think it gives lawmakers a better shot of where to go next. So it kind of gives them a roadmap. Who was involved? I mentioned that Howard Lutnick had come up in the conversation. Will lawmakers pull at that string any further? Obviously, we know that there's been a lot of questions about whether or not Lutnick would be called to testify or more. And then another of our viewers, and again, thank you for tuning in, giving this guy his first social media live stream. Give me a break here. What was the Nancy Mace referring to that Hillary was screaming? I think it was that back and forth. So Mace had asked about Howard Lutnick, and as Clinton was answering, Mace asked another question. Pretty much right there, Clinton's like, "Well, if you're not even going to listen to me," and it just blew up. But you could imagine the tension that was in the room at the same time. And so it was interesting to watch those videos. What's the reaction up on the Hill? Well, those lawmakers who were in the room, my God, they saw this firsthand on Thursday with Hillary, on Friday with Bill Clinton, President Clinton, and they knew right away what it was going to be. They even had little makeshift press conferences in Chappaqua. What's different that's happened since Friday, of course, as you well know, is there's a war in Iran, and pretty much everything that would have been the spotlight on this has temporarily faded. And I say temporarily, and I believe that, because we have seen time and time again the Epstein issue continue to come up, both by Democrats and Republican lawmakers. So regardless of what happens in Iran over the next days, weeks, and months, this issue will come back up. But the instant reaction that we saw out of Congress, completely different now because of what is happening overseas. Lawmakers were also not in D.C. over the weekend. But had Iran not happened, I guarantee you this would still be front page news. These video clips, you would be seeing them hour on the hour, and that's just not the case right now. So keep sending in these questions again. For a guy who is doing this for his first time, you've been kind to me so far, so I do appreciate that. As you can see, we're in our little D.C. studio here in Washington. I've been at Fox 7 years. It's a great place to work. The people here have been wonderful, and we really appreciate the audience who does trust us and continues to come for us for news, whether it's based on depositions about Jeffrey Epstein or the war. I know you've seen our colleagues overseas, Trey Yanks, his producers, his photographers, Nate Foy's out in Cyprus, our team doing a really, really great job. In terms of more scheduled hearings, depositions, and I would absolutely imagine there are more depositions. That's a great question, maybe one that I should have looked up. But in terms of what I know, no more depositions of the Clintons. And one of our legal colleagues mentioned today, this was kind of a reset moment. The committee has to decide where they want to go from here, and I just don't know if that decision has been made. Everything in Washington has been kind of thrown up in the air over the past 72 hours. But yes, I would absolutely imagine there will be more hearings on Epstein. Democrats have already vowed that if they take the House, that they would absolutely continue to look into Epstein, and they want President Trump to testify, similar to what happened with President Clinton. Whether that's going to happen or not, your guess is as good as mine on that one. It's been a wild couple of weeks, months, and years, but the story goes on, and you can bet the folks here at Fox will be here to cover it for you. Like I said, I really appreciate your patience in dealing with me. I promise to do this again, hopefully without having to use a walking cane, but in the meantime, hope you have a great day wherever you are in the world. And thank you for trusting all of us here at Fox News. Good afternoon.